So a couple months ago, I reviewed the Grudge movie from 2004 starring Sarah Michelle Gellar. And today I'm going to review the Grudge 2 with Amber Tamberlin, I think her name is. And I gotta be completely honest, I think this is my favorite Grudge movie entirely, if not my favorite horror movie like ever, other than Silent Hill, but I'll get to that one later. And mostly because I think that this one kind of defined a couple of horror scares that I've seen later on down the line in horror movies, but like this one really cemented it. It had some of the best looks from 2006 that I've seen, and I recently just watched it. Like I watched it like I'd say a couple months ago, but then I rewatched it a couple nights ago and I still really love it. There are some points in this movie that don't really make a whole lot of sense, but the movie as a whole is really, really good. So let's get started. So first of all, I want to show this part of the movie, the beginning part with the Columbia Pictures. This intro right here. This is the best intro I've seen to a Sony Pictures movie in a while, especially for a horror movie. And it kind of showed me what was going to happen in this movie with the Grudge kind of like possessing everybody in a way. I really don't know how they went with that, but might as well, right? So the movie starts off with a couple, a married couple in an apartment, and you can kind of tell that things are heated up a little bit. Like the guy comes in and he's already kind of pissed off, but like angrily, like you get what I mean. And the wife is making eggs and bacon, like whatever kind of situation. And the funny thing is that he like starts getting really, really mad, and then she pours oil on his head and then like knocks him out cold, which in turn just kills him. And this was such a weird scene for me because I'm like, I didn't think they were actually gonna do that. I don't know why, but for some reason it was just like a I figured that was gonna happen, but also, wow, they actually did it. Okay. But remember this couple in the movie because they're gonna be relevant later. I think I used that word right. Yeah. Okay. So we then get introduced to the first main characters of the movie, which is going to be Allison, Vanessa, and Miyuki. I think her name is Miyuki. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. But Miyuki and Vanessa are the school bullies. Well, technically Vanessa is the bully, but Miyuki's kind of just there. Allison is, of course, a transfer student from being there for about a couple months, about 6 months, and she already is trying to get the cool kids to like her, like every other teenage girl. And what's funny is that Vanessa is actually played by Teresa Palmer, who plays Officer Horse's Apprentice, and that was like my childhood movie, so I thought that was pretty funny. And she tries her the hardest this entire movie to hide the fact that she's Australian. It doesn't really work, but it's fine. And the whole point of this scene right here is to kind of showcase what kind of personality Allison's going to have in this movie, which is very people pleasing. And they decide what better way to indoctrinate her into this like almost fan club in this high school is to take her to the house. Now, the house in the Grudge universe is obviously the house that Kayoko was brutally murdered by her husband, Takasho. I swear I know these names. It's hard to pronounce them sometimes. But the thing I like about this movie is that they have the house looking really burned down and bluish. And I'm gonna be honest, it's probably the best the house has ever looked to me. I like the broken look. I like the singed look. It gives it more of a creep factor. The first movie, I definitely liked the house, but it was a little too homely looking. And I do like the fact that they carried on the Karen trying to burn down the house in the last movie. So obviously they go into the house, they start going into the room, and they start talking about the accident, about what happened. And they're like, "Hey, you should go into the closet because like if you count to 10 or 15 and you close your eyes and you look up, you'll see her like coming down at you." So then they obviously put her in the closet. And after a while they realize, "Oh, this might not be a joke anymore." And I think the funny thing is that this whole scene proves that kids in these movies will do anything to be a part of a group, and I feel so bad for them because 'cause I'm like, "Look, I'd rather be friendless than do whatever this is."
One, two,
You
three.
have to go further in.
Like, it's just it's sad. But either way, she sees Kyoko. And she freaks out and they all run out of the house, obviously. So yeah, that was a fun thing, and it kind of shows off Kyoko as well. Kyoko and kind of cements out what she's gonna look like in this movie. And the thing I like about this movie is that they made her look even more like I don't know, like a ghost. Like the first movie, she was definitely more of a corpse. This one, she's like more dead. I don't know where I was going with that one. All right, and then obviously we get to another scene where it shows the main character of the movie, Audrey, which is the younger sister of Karen from the last movie. And we find out that she and her mom don't really have a good relationship, like, at all. Like, she kind of values Karen a little bit more than Audrey, and that kind of puts a strain on her and her daughter's relationship. But she goes ahead and lets Audrey know that Karen is in the hospital and that Doug is, in fact, dead. Doug is the guy from the last movie who was the boyfriend of Karen. Um, so obviously they established that Audrey and Karen have a weird relationship as well. It's the older sibling, younger sibling situation. And I like how blatantly just like how much she doesn't like her daughter she's showing. Like she's just like, you need to be the bigger person. Karen doesn't have to do any of this. Like, dude, chill. Like, it's okay. So she sends Audrey to Tokyo to go get Karen out of the hospital and bring her home. Her task is go get your sister because I don't want to see you right now. So she goes over to the hospital and she obviously doesn't know what's happening right now. And she meets up with this other guy named Eason. He's a reporter, and he lets her, he helps her out, he gets her into the room, and she says hi to Karen. Karen is flipping out. She's like, "Oh my god, you're actually here. Help me. She's going to kill me." And she's like, "I don't know what you're talking about. Are you okay?" Stuff like that. Gets out of hand. They have to take her out to the waiting room where her and Eason talk, and Eason's just like, "Hey, look, I'm a reporter. I heard about what happened to your sister. Like, can you get me into something to talk to her?" And she's just like, "I don't think anyone should be talking right now." Um, and then we flash over to Karen being all sedated and stuff. And that's when this is when the movie kind of takes a turn into like a paranormal aspect where it's like I like what they did with the second movie where the first movie was establishing, oh, she's dead, she was in an accident, and you kind of see her, but you kind of don't. This movie, they went, okay, so she is like a ghost. Like she's not a ghost, but she's enough of a paranormal entity to like teleport and be ghostly, and I absolutely love it because then we start seeing some really good shots. Like, we get a shot of her coming up from the bed, and as Karen is trying to get out of it, so she ends up somehow, I forgot how she gets out, but she gets out, and the guards to go try to grab her, and she automatically runs out of the room, and then that's when she's running through the halls, and she sees, like, a bunch of nurses, and then she sees Kayako just sitting in like, standing there menacingly waiting for her. So then she starts running towards the exit, and that's when we get one of the best shots in this movie, which is Kayako flickering down the hallway. And this movie is the reason why hospitals freak me out so much because every time I see flickering lights now, I'm just like, oh, I'm totally gonna see this scene right here. So then after that scene, we see her running through the back end a little bit, and then that's when we start seeing Kayako like go through the sheets and stuff like that, and doing her normal cricket sounds and all that. And then we finally get to the roof where Karen thinks she's safe. She is indeed not safe. And that's when we see Kayako start kind of walking over to her, really, really weird. And she like disappears for a second, and Karen's just like, "Oh my god, I finally did it. I'm good. I don't have to worry about it." Wrong. She's right behind her and she pulls her down with the croak of her throat. And honestly, that's kind of when Eason and Audrey were walking out of the hospital too. So you get like a whole scene where Eason and Audrey are just standing outside talking about Karen, and Eason being like, "Hey, I think your sister knows about something," just for her to fall down like right behind them. and that's when Eason sees Kayako looming over Karen's body, like, she kinda has something to do with that. Remember that, by the way. Him seeing Kayako is a huge focal point in this movie. So then we get to a next scene where where we start seeing the couple from the beginning of the movie, and they're moving into a new apartment. I'm pretty sure the first one was going from Illinois to Tokyo, and then these people are in California, I think. I will edit it later if I got those wrong. We see the couple from the first part of the movie being not so angry with each other, and they're very happy, lightful, stuff like that. So this is Bill, and this is Trish. Trish is his new girlfriend and or wife. They don't really clarify that in the movie, but she's moving into the house and they got 2 kids. They got Lacey and they got Jake. I forgot the name for a second. So they got Lacey and they got Jake, which is their 2 kids. And Lacey's completely fine with Trish. They have a good relationship already. Jake, on the other hand, is not so convinced. I'm pretty sure that either their mom died or she moved away or something like that, but it's fresh for him, so he doesn't really like it. We then meet Lacey's friend. I completely forgot what her name was, but she's played by the girl from Step Up, which is Jenna Dwayne, I think her name is. But this was, like, right before Step Up as well. She kinda plays a part in this movie, but not really. She's basically just the friend that the movie uses to show things happening. We also start seeing a weird, like, transition between the 2 where we see Jake seeing a hooded figure being walked down the hallway by 2 people he knows, and also, this hooded figure is also very integral to the story, so remember the hooded figure. We don't know who's behind the hood, but they're important. Cut to the school where we have Allison and we have Miyuki, obviously still terrified from the house that they just been to a couple of days ago, and Allison starts seeing the cat. Now, the cat is the first sign of seeing the grudge or the curse, as they call it. And then that's when Allison sees Toshio in her chair and she starts freaking out. But obviously she has to play it cool and be like, "Oh no, I'm just seeing whatever." But then Miyuki sees the cat as well, and that just throws her off, and the whole scene is weird. We then have a quick scene in the locker room of a little bit of a bully session between Allison and Vanessa, where Vanessa's basically just treating Allison like that she's just freaking out for no reason, basically acting like that Vanessa wasn't in the house as well, like with most movies that have the grudge in it where they're like, "Oh, it was just in our heads. You don't know what you're talking about." She's also a bully, so that doesn't really help. But we see Vanessa go into the shower, and obviously she's also being hunted by the curse that she starts seeing the wet hair in the drains and stuff like that. And she gets out of the shower and she's freaking out. She's like, "Wait, I have blonde hair." And like she goes over to the locker and she starts seeing she has that thing about her that we all had when we were kids where we were like, "Oh, that thing in the corner kinda looks like a person, but not quite." But that fear is taken into reality in this movie when this scene happens. And as you can see, she is so terrified, she starts peeing herself and she flees away, like, I'd be terrified too. Next scene, we see Miyuki and her boyfriend Michael, or as I called him, Kurt Cobain, because I couldn't remember his name. They get a hotel room in, Tokyo, and I'm pretty sure this is, like, a thing that happens over there because I've seen it in the Wolverine movie as well, where they, like, pick, like, a specific theme for their hotel room, especially for a honeymoon suite. So they get into their hotel, and he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna go take a shower because I gotta be all sexy and clean and stuff like that." And she goes over to the bed, she starts figuring her stuff out, and she finds a, lovemaking device, and she's like, "Oh my god," like, she's thinking in her head, "Oh my god, my boyfriend wants to, do the deed with me," and she starts freaking out, she's like, "Oh no, I don't think I'm ready for that," and she's in bed, and you get, like, a really interesting shot where you see the boyfriend in the shower, but also her playing around with something in the bed that she thinks is Michael because she could hear someone come in through the door, even though you see him go back into the shower, so obviously he wasn't done. And we also get one of the best scenes in the movie, which is Kayoko being in the mirror, pulling Miyuki through the mirror, which I think is also one of the coolest shots, like, ever, and obviously she is gone now. So in the next scene, we see Audrey go over to Karen's house in the first movie, and obviously it's gonna hit her after a while. She uses Karen's phone to call the mom to like kind of make sure that that's the phone. The mom picks up, thinks it's Karen. It is not Karen, it is Audrey. And she kind of has this realization that her sister is really gone after she looks at pictures. And they had to have been really recent, but, like, the pictures, they were already grown, so, like, they were, like, freshly not talking. But that it was a pretty intense scene. She obviously stays the night there because she's like, "My sister's gone, and I can't get her back," and, like, they had a big fight, stuff like that, and it sucked. We pull over to a scene where Eason is watching the investigated tape from the last movie with the investigator from that movie talking to the camera. I can't tell if somebody was in the camera or not, or they were just talking, but you can like see and hear Kayako in the video. And he like starts pausing it and going frame by frame, which I think would break the tape, but apparently not. And then that's when he sees Kayako's face in the video, and then he turns it off and sees her in the reflection, which I think is a pretty cool detail. It kinda gives off like a Sadako vibe from The Ring. That is when we see Eason go to Karen's house to talk to Audrey, where he reveals that he was actually the one that saved Karen from the house. Which, if you remember back from the earlier part of this video, we established that Eason already saw Kayako on top of Karen, and the reason why he saw her and Audrey didn't is because he went into the house. So there's a very big aspect with this storyline where if you walk into the house, you are cursed. There is no messing with anything, there's no tape, there's no nothing. You walk through that door and you're basically you stepped on a piece of gum and it's going with you for the rest of your life kind of situation. It's because he went in there and saved her from the fire, he is now cursed and will probably die at some point. So we so he starts telling Audrey, "Hey, there's something wrong with the house. There's a reason why Karen was doing what she did, and we need to figure it out." We then get a family scene in the apartment where Jake hears noises and he sees the hooded figure go down to the basement and get some paper. That's also going to be very relevant towards the end of the movie, so pay attention to that part. Um, Obviously, he's going to be staring at this hooded figure for a long period of time. Hooded figure is important. We just don't know who it is. We also get like a weird scene between Trish and Bill when Trish sees everyone off to their day, and then Trish is kind of just sitting there on the phone with her friend. Want to say his name is Michael. Don't know. I'm probably just saying it from the other guy. And Bill comes in like really, really pissed off for no reason. And he is basically just like accusing her, like, "Hey, who are you on the phone with? Why are you talking to him?" And she's like, "Hey, it's not that serious. It's just an old friend of mine." And he's like, "Hey, I lost my keys." And she goes, "Okay, I'll go find them." Just for it to be in his hands. So obviously he's not looking for his keys. Very weird scene, but it kind of showcases the little bit of a shift in personality that we see in the first part of the movie. We then cut to a scene with Vanessa being called into the counselor office, and that's where we see Allison on the couch as well. And she looks really disheveled. And Vanessa starts asking questions like, "What am I doing here? What's going on?" And she's like, and the counselor is basically just like, "Hey, we need to know what happened in that house because things are going wrong." And that's when Allison tells Vanessa, "Hey, Miyuki is gone. Like she never came home last night." And she's just like, "Hey, like this is very serious. If something did happen, we need to know." And Vanessa goes to go tell her like it wasn't a big deal and that she wanted it, and that's when Allison starts freaking out and being like, "Hey," she's just like, "Oh my god, like this is like horrible. Like what did I ever do to you?" She storms out. Obviously, counselor goes after her because kid is freaking out. You go after them, and Vanessa goes to go play with a lamp. Which a lot of these scenes in this movie reflect heavily on The Grudge and The Grudge 2 from the Japanese version. Since I watched them as well, kind of makes sense. And we get a sequence where Vanessa is playing around with the lamp and the lamp stops working and she looks down and she's like, "Who unplugged it?" And we get, like, a weird scene between Vanessa and Toshio where Toshio's kind of, like, playing with her a little bit, kinda teasing her, and that's when she gets, like she touches the foot when she's trying to get the phone. She goes to go answer the phone, and it's, like, a weird, the croaking noise. So then she runs out to a phone booth, which honestly, this scene also got me because honestly, phone booths are so tricky for me because Superman got me wanting to go into a phone booth, and then The Grudge got me wanting to get out of the phone booth. But we got one of the best scenes in this movie as well, where The Grudge basically pulls a Spider-Man and comes down, but, like, has a staring contest with her the entire time before she kills her. We also get a scene where, at her house, Karen and Easton decide to both go to the Curse's house to go figure out what happened, and that's when he goes in there and finds the notebook. And he's like, "Hey, you need to stay out here. I don't want you coming in here." Because technically, Audrey's never been in the house. He has, so he obviously knows that if you step in, you get cursed. Um, so he's in the house. He finds the book. He starts hearing things, but he's ready. And then Audrey's outside, obviously just waiting for him to come out so they can go figure stuff out. And then we start hearing weird noises, and she looks in the window and sees Kayako just standing there. And she walks in. I would have just stayed, but obviously we wouldn't have a movie otherwise. She walks into the yard and she hears her name being said, like you hear Audrey, and it says, "Don't go into the house." And she also gets another really cool transition where either Toshio or Kayako, grabs her hand and, like, spins her into the house, and he finds out, and he's just like, "What are you doing in here?" She's like, "I didn't do it." And then they, get out and they go to his friend's house to basically figure out what the book is saying because he's not too into, like, urban legends or folklore, and his friend is a lot easier at it. So they go over to his house, and the friend's just like, "Hey, her mom did some really weird stuff with her where she basically did rituals on people and exorcisms to get evil spirits out, and then fed her daughter the evil spirits." And I'm like, well, no wonder she turned into a whatever she is. I want to say Onryo. It's like it would have been better if they were just like, oh, it was because of the way she felt that's why she turned into what she did when she died. But I'm like, it doesn't help that they gave her a whole storyline where her mom was just like, hey, you're gonna eat these demons. What? So after they get back from his friend's house, they go to Eason's house where they plan a trip over to Kaiko's mom's house to try to figure out why she is the way she is. And we then find out that the reason why Audrey and Karen are fighting or were fighting is because Audrey felt like Karen was just trying to be her mom and she wanted her to go to college and she gave her applications. And Audrey was basically just like, "You're not my mom. Like, back off. I don't want to hear it." And obviously made a scene and left. And then that was the last time she saw her. So she feels even more guilty about Karen dying because they had an argument before that. So that was pretty sad. So Eason makes her tea to calm down and she falls asleep on the couch. So he's like, okay, I'm gonna go into my picture room and go develop some stuff. And that's when we get yet another really weird scene in this movie where he's fixing this picture that he took a picture of the house. And it is established in this scene that Kayako can move through anything in this movie, and that's probably why she was able to teleport places. So because of the fact that she's kind of in the picture, she was able to come through the picture, and then these two had like a staring contest before he died. Like, that was the weirdest scene ever, but hey, you know what? Cool. That's how we do it. So then Audrey Audrey wakes up on the couch and sees the tea, and she's like, "Oh, where's Ethan at?" So she goes and finds the picture room, and that's when she sees Ethan on the ground, ring style, being dead. Goes over to him to hug him and be like, "Oh my god, like, I'll fix this." Eason turns into Kayako for a second, scares the ever living crap out of Audrey, and then as Audrey's leaving, we get like these weird picture frame looks that is basically like a threat from Kayako, and that's when Audrey runs over and starts heading over to the over to Kayako's mom's house to go figure stuff out because Easton's dead, everyone else is dead. She has to go fix this. So the next scene we see Jake in the apartment complex, and he finally starts hearing some weird stuff. So after seeing a bunch of like weird things happening with his family and everyone's starting to act odd, he goes over to the apartment that he saw the hooded figure come out of, and he realizes that it's a girl, and she's like mad cutting her hair. She's freaking out. And he looks over at the window and sees all the newspaper that she had grabbed, and it's all over the window. And that's when he sees the faces that look like uh high school girls being Onryo'd looking, like, they look like the Grudge in the window, and that's when he runs out and goes back to his room. He actually goes over to Lacey's room, and they start laying down and, like, trying to calm him down. So one of the weirdest things about this movie is when Lacey's friend is acting weird, and it's really, really gross, so I'm not really gonna show it. I'll blur it out a little bit, but she, like, goes to go show her friend her outfit, and her friend, like, chugs milk, which isn't the weird part, because honestly, I'm pretty sure everyone's done that at least once. But then she, like, puts the milk back into the container, which I thought I couldn't watch. That was really gross. But later in the movie, after we see Jake go over to Lacey's room and try to relax, you see another scene where Lacey's friend is having some sleep problems, and you see her like having milk all over her counter, showing that she had some weird things happening that night. And then she wakes up and starts croaking like crazy, like how the one lady from the first movie did. And then you see Toshio sitting over her and basically choking her to death with his mind, like a Jedi. And then she dies. So then we see the earlier intro scene where it's from a different perspective. It shows Bill coming in to get his breakfast, and you see Trish in Jake's room, like, hearing through the walls like he did earlier, showing that she's also hearing stuff, but she's, like, in a trance, so it's starting to show that everyone's starting to get, like, this weird feeling about them. So then we cut to the next scene where it's Allison being called into the counselor's office, and the counselor's just like, "Hey, like, we need to talk about this." And she's like, "Okay, literally everyone's dying. Something's really wrong with that house. We need to fix it." And the counselor's like, "No, nothing's wrong. Like me, like I went there with the police. We searched. Nothing happened." And that's like the creepiest thing about this movie is that it shows like Allison sitting there and she's like, "Wait, you went in the house? Well, now you're cursed." Like the rest, like she's gonna come after you too, like she did the others. And she's like, "What are you talking about? The others are right next to you." And this scene is so creepy. Not only does it show zombified versions of her, I don't even want to say friends, but of Miyuki and Vanessa, but then we get the weirdest, creepiest sound from the counselor as she's also getting grudge-fied. And let me tell you, watching that at night was not a good idea, but I loved it anyway. We then get a scene where Audrey finally makes it to Kaigo's mom's house, and she's like, "Hey, I heard what you did to your daughter, and this is the reason why she is what she is." And the mom has such the gall to be like, "Oh no, I didn't do anything wrong to her. It was her decisions to marry a man like that and get herself killed, like whatever." It's like, yeah, the husband did a horrible thing and killed his wife, and he's an absolute monster for that. But she also needs to take a little bit of credit because she literally fed demons into her child. Like, she literally took, like, people's like, even if that's not exactly what happened, it was just blood, she's taking the energy from that person and putting it into Kayako and expecting her not to become a weird thing after her death. Okay. But obviously Kayako didn't not like that either, and somehow traveled with Audrey, and, like, again, does a weird scene where she, like, takes over Audrey's body from the mom's vision and kills her with cricket noises. I don't know how she's doing this, but I kinda like that this movie is showing Kayako's, like, almost supernatural spiritual side. Is really fun. But yeah, she kills her mom with a stare. She's really good at killing people while looking at them. So the next scene is Lacey and Jake coming home from whatever they were doing. I'm gonna guess school. They did this earlier where Jake and Lacey and the friend walked to school and he saw a person in the apartment complex with the papers and stuff like that, which kind of signifies what's about to happen. So they come home and they realize that the whole apartment is completely dark. And they're like, hey, we're gonna split up and we're gonna go find clues like Scooby Doo gang. When has that ever been a good idea? He goes into the parents' room and he finds the dad all bloodied on the floor, and he's like, "Oh my god, like my dad's dead. Let me go find Lacey." Runs into the bathroom, sees Lacey's head just like submerged into the tub. She's dead. He then hears Trish, and Trish is just like, "Hey, you need a bath." And I'm like, "Okay, that's not creepy at all." And we see that Kayako actually killed Trish. We're seeing that Kayako somehow traveled to the apartment complex. So something happened in that apartment complex that made it to where Kayako is now there. Because she's been in the house, she has been in the school, and she's been in the apartment complex. We then cut to a scene where Audrey is walking towards the curse house, and she calls her mom, and she's like, "Hey, Karen's dead, and I'm sorry." And the mom's just like, "Oh my god, how could you do this? You were supposed to like help her. You're like such a horrible daughter, blah blah blah." And she's like, "Man, I love you, I really do, but like you can't treat me like this anymore." I'm like, "Thank you." She finally stood up to her mom. I'm so tired of seeing movies where people have to be nice to their parents when their parents are being absolutely horrid people. I don't like it. If your parents are horrid people, no respect. You don't have to. I'm sorry if that's controversial, but, like, you don't need to show them respect if they're being absolute jerks about it. But she says that she hangs up because she knows she's probably not gonna get out of the house alive since she's already been in the house technically, and she hangs up on her mom. She goes into the house and she's like, "You killed my friend, you killed my sister, you killed all those people. What do you want? What's happening?" And that's when she gets flashed back to seeing Karen from the first movie walking up the steps to go see Doug. And and then that's honestly when she walks over to the room and Kayako flashes her back even further to where she actually is living Kayako's memory. And when I say that this scene hit me in the feels. It really did. I don't know if it was the music, the color grading, or the acting from Amber, but this scene was heartbreaking. It shows Audrey living Kayako's life in her final moments, where it shows him doing his thing, putting her through the same thing, and she dies on the floor with Kayako coming up to her, basically passing the torch as the new curse, and it cuts to black. So then we get a whole recap of this movie from chronological order. And if you know anything about the Grudge movies, they always premiere them. They do the scenes out of order all the time, so you can kind of connect the dots afterwards. And you see that Audrey did her thing first, and then when Allison and the girls went to the house, she actually saw Allison as the Grudge and not Kayako. But in the first part of the movie, it was definitely Kayako. They're making you think that they played a trick on you. It really it's such a weird scene. Shows her doing that. Then Allison and their people did all of their scenes. And then Allison somehow makes it to the apartment where Jake sees that the hooded figure is actually Allison, and the people we saw in her window were actually supposed to be her little schoolmates. And we find out that Allison is the reason why the curse is in the apartment complex, and that's what killed Jake's family. We then get a weird scene where we see Kayako crawling down the stairs, but then she doesn't come down the stairs, and you start seeing Allison like freaking out. She's like, "Oh my god, you gotta help me!" And then that's when we get the weirdest scene where Kayako like takes Allison through her hoodie and then proceeds to go through the hoodie as Jake's holding it and, like, teases that there's gonna be a 3rd movie the same way where it shows Kayako croaking towards the screen. So, funny enough is, like, nobody lives in this movie. Everyone dies except for Jake, and that's just because he's used for, like, 3 minutes in the 3rd movie. I, for one, loved this movie. I watched it twice. I think it's a really, really good movie. There are a lot of aspects where things didn't really make any sense, but honestly, when it comes to horror movies, a lot of them don't make sense anymore. So I'm just glad that this one was creepy. I still think it has some of the best horror scenes in a paranormal movie, even though I don't even know if you can call it a paranormal movie, but the scene where Kayako is walking down the hallway with the lights flickering, that was great. The scene where she is pulling Miyuki through the mirror, that was pretty good too. I loved it. It was obviously CGI at points, but it was still good. And then the scene where she pulls Vanessa up in the photo booth, in the phone booth, that was also really good. Also kind of showed Toshio, but he just has a weird thing with feet. Um, Other than that, really good movie. I loved it. And I watch it every once in a while too, just to like kind of refresh my mind a little bit. I'm not sure if I'm gonna do a video on the 3rd movie. I might if this video gets a lot of likes, but 3rd movie kinda disappointed me since it's not even from the same director, and the lady who plays Kayako doesn't even play Kayako in the 3rd movie, and I watched it, and it was pretty bad. The paint was weird on them, they didn't really look like ghosts, they looked like clowns, and they started doing this weird thing from the original Japanese version that would have made more sense if they did it in the first 2 movies where they, like, try to recreate the curse, and it doesn't really work out very well. Plus, everyone doesn't really know how to act in this movie, so it's not really good, and I haven't seen the 4th/reboot, slash reboot, so I kinda just watched the first 2 movies and then went back and watched all the Japanese ones, which funny enough, The Grudge 2 from the Japanese one is also my favorite. Um, but yeah, that was The Grudge 2. I still think it's probably one of the best horror movies I've seen in a while. That and the Silent Hill movies I absolutely love. If you guys wanna see a 3rd movie review, please let me know. I probably won't do it unless it's actually asked for because it's genuinely just not really a good movie. Maybe I'll make, like, a short 6-minute one recap and everything, but it's I would have to rewatch it, and I really don't wanna have to rewatch that movie. It was pretty bad. It was almost as bad as the, Jew on the white ghost. It's just it's not good. But I am planning on making 2 reviews for the Silent Hill movies because Silent Hill 2006 is my favorite horror movie ever, like, at all, and Silent Hill 3D as well. It's a movie that happened and went in the box office. But, yeah, I hope you enjoyed. I wanted to get this video done a little bit quickly. Normally, I point out all the hypocrisies in a movie, but I'm also just, like, I'm getting over a cold and I started back up with work and it's just like I really wanted to get this video out because last time I posted a video that was for a movie was back in November and I want to kind of keep going with that. I am planning on making other videos on reactions and stuff like that with like paranormal scary videos and stuff like that. But yeah, hope you enjoyed and I will see you in the next one. Bye.